everyone, a warm welcome to Digital Guru 2020 Programmatic Blue Belt track. I sincerely hope that everyone is well and staying safe and healthy during this time. And a big welcome back to all of our Green Belt graduates. I am so glad that you're able to join us wherever you are today to learn more about programmatic. I'm very excited to have all of you here to learn more about digital, specifically programmatic maturity. We've got a full agenda planned out for you, so hopefully you will leave today gaining a lot from this session. Before we jump right in, a quick introduction of myself for those of you who don't already know me. My name is Hazel, working on the Google Marketing Platform team, and for the next 2 hours or so, I'll be bringing you through a programmatic maturity journey on how we can move a digital nascent advertiser up the maturity curve through 3 of the 5 A's, specifically on audience, assets, and an attribution and measurement standpoint. Some quick tips to get the most out of today's session before we begin. We'll be talking a lot about technology and how it can enable you to deliver the right message at the right time to the right users through programmatic pipes today. But even as we talk about these technologies, I would like to strongly urge you to say no to your surrounding device distractions, at least for the next 2 hours, so as to get the most out of today's session. The session is completely interactive, so if you have any questions at all, please feel free to comment them in the YouTube livestream comment box. I'll try my best to answer these questions as we go through via the comment box. And if there are any questions that has yet to be answered, we'll have a separate Google Meet session for a Q&A forum. And last but not least, what happens at Digital Guru must not stay at Digital Guru. Go forth and put into practice what you've learned today after today's session. Please also do not forget to check in. If you have not already done so, please go to your web app, go to My Progress, View Belt, and put in the code Guru Day 3, and we're all set. I think we can all agree that 2020 has been a year of change. 2020 has been a very special year for all of us here in Vietnam, where Programmatic Digital Guru went 100% digital for the very first time. A big thank you to all of you amazing people who joined us last quarter. We saw a whopping 273 attendees across 29 agencies, more than doubling the number of attendees we had last year. There has been great interest in Vietnam on how programmatic and specifically DV360 and Campaign Manager can add value to your brand strategy. And for those of you who were not able to make it during our last Programmatic Green Belt session, here's a quick recap on what we looked into previously. In our last session, we looked into the basics around Google Marketing Platform, specifically looking at DV360. The platform offerings can really be split into 4 main pillars that we looked at that matter most to the Vietnam market. We covered specifically on access, audience, assets, and measurement tools or attribution tools on the platform. Our first look into access saw how DV360 allows you to consolidate your different inventory types and effectively plan, buy, and measure across these inventory types. We also briefly looked into the different audience targeting available on DV360, specifically in 3 pillars of audiences: your first party, third party, and Google audience segments on DV360. We then talked about assets, more specifically what are the creative types available on the platform, what are some of the bespoke creatives available on the platform, and how DV360 allows you to access different types of creatives beyond your standard display and video formats. And last but not least, to top it off, in our last session, we also looked at the different reports available on the platform that will allow you to plan, optimize your campaigns, and measure success. So what's in it for us today, you might ask? Our aim for today is to bring this one step further to look into what it means to bring advertisers beyond the basics of programmatic, to enable our partners like yourself in media agencies to have in-depth discussions around digital maturity, leading conversations with a framework and milestone points to drive digital maturity. I think we can all agree now more than ever that it is important for advertisers to communicate in a meaningful, personalized manner to reach consumers in relevant and seamless brand experiences. To help marketers land this approach, Google partnered with Boston Consulting Group, BCG, to conduct a study to explore how leading brands journey to digital marketing maturity. To help us understand how digital maturity looks like, the BCG Maturity Framework provides us with an easy-to-understand framework with milestone steps and pointers to bring our advertisers up the digital maturity curve. What is this BCG Maturity Framework, you might ask? It was a study compiled by this third-party consulting company called Boston Consulting Group, who did an audit across 40 industry experts as well as 40 Google case studies to help us understand the key components of what a digital mature advertiser look like, and the key executional, technical, and organizational steps each advertiser must take to reach the goal of data-driven marketing. The study looked at 43 different maturity dimensions, covering everything from a company's ability to be able to link online and offline data, to testing and measurement techniques to understand what it takes to drive digital maturity. And findings from this research categorized brands across 4 levels of digital marketing maturity, from nascent to multi-moment stage. Moving from the bottom to top that you see here, we first have nascent advertisers, where brands execute campaigns mostly through direct buys, and emerging, where campaigns are partially automated on a single channel optimization. Moving on to connected stage, where brands start using their own data in a more sophisticated way across channels. And finally, multi-moment stage, which is characterized by advertisers with dynamic execution and optimization towards lifetime value. To help advertisers understand how to get from nascent to multi-moment stage, a guide consisting of 5 fundamental principles was put together. We call them the 5 A's, which is what you see here in terms of audience, assets, access, attribution, and automation. These makes the 5 A's, and this should be your new mantra. By developing an approach around each pillar, you can become a digital transformation champion, delivering enriched customer experiences and improved business performance. In the green belt, we covered the basics around the 5 A's and what these are, essentially in the nascent to emerging stages. Some of our advertisers in Vietnam have reached the stage of emerging, especially around access, that is media consolidation on DV360. We saw in the programmatic green belt that DV360 allows you to access multiple publishers and various formats across YouTube and non-YouTube. It enables advertisers to scale across the market to reach the right users at the right time with the right formats. In doing so, DV360 allows you to manage frequency across specific local publisher buys and across YouTube and non-YouTube Google partner inventory. We also saw in the programmatic green belt that beyond the benefits that comes in frequency management when you buy multiple channels in a single platform, there is also the value in measurement when you consolidate your buys into a single platform. For one, DV360 allows you to measure cumulative reach across multiple channels and inventory types. Instead of getting one report from publisher A, for example, and a second report from publisher B, and then a third report on YouTube reach from Google Ads, DV360 allows you to pool these buys, allows you to pool a cumulative reach report across these three channels, across YouTube and non-YouTube, as long as these buys are consolidated into DV360 as the single platform. In Greenbelt on Access, we saw that the purpose of a DSP is to centralize your digital media buy. The DSP started as a way to access small amount of media inventory. Today, it has become the portal by which to access video, display, mobile inventory, and we've slowly seen the expansion in media inventory we can access today beyond display and video to connected TV and even audio ads. In the next 10 to 15 years, we're likely to see it become the portal by which to access TV, digital outdoor ads, and even radio advertising. Access on DV360, I think we can all agree, is no stranger to a lot of our advertisers in the Vietnam market. But today, we want to spend a little bit of time to go deeper into each of the other A's. Over the course of the next 2 hours or so, we will be focusing on how to drive your advertisers from emerging to connected in audience, assets, and attribution. Without further ado, let's dive into the first A of today, on audience. Now let's recall what we discussed during the programmatic Greenbelt on audience. You've heard that programmatic allows you to reach out to the right users at the right time, and in Greenbelt, we discussed three main considerations to enable you to reach out to the right audiences for your next media plan. First is in identifying what data signals is available at your reach. Then define who your targeted audiences are, and following that, reaching them at the right consumer journey stage. We laid out the capabilities of DV360 in these three main considerations. First, on data signals at your reach, we identified the availability of first-party, third-party, and Google audiences on the platform that serves as data signals for you to reach out to your target audiences. Then we introduced the DV360 Audience Profile Analysis tool, which allows you to uncover insights about your audiences through a seed first-party audience list. By selecting a seed first-party audience list, the tool will show you what other first-party, Google audiences, and third-party audience overlap against that segment. This we saw during the Greenbelt is a great tool for audience profiling. Now, leveraging on signals and defining who your target audiences are not quite enough. We'll then need to match these based on consumer journey stage to reach out to the right audiences at the right time. With our strong understanding of users' behavior and intent, our audience product suite is built to engage with users across their journey. So we've seen this in the Greenbelt, and having these three main considerations in place allows marketers to be more efficient in achieving the goal of moving customers down the purchase funnel and using data to personalize the message and mature from a one-size-fits-all approach. And this is important. Why is this important, and why did we have that foundational build in Greenbelt? Because this serves as the first step to moving advertisers from nascent to emerging from an audience standpoint. The key here is in moving from a one-size-fits-all broad audience targeting approach to leveraging some form of first-party and third-party user data across advertising channels, such as using your search audiences on your display campaigns. Remember, our key goal for today is not just to allow you to understand nascent and emerging, we want to help you to move further than that and understand what it takes to move from emerging to connected. So what does it take to move to connected stage? The key here is in using advertisers' first-party data. The next phase of growth is where the marketer shows the ability to actually ask the right questions. In order to move to the connected stage, the marketer actually needs to ask the right questions about data. Here, the marketer should begin to ask deeper questions. Picture the growth in this way, right? You have an emerging marketer who would ask questions like, what data do I have? Or where can I use my data? The connected marketer would then begin to ask, where else can I get this data? Or how do I bring all the data that I have together in a single place? In connected state, you also tap into existing offline customer data, put that into the mix with your existing online data, and expand your audience using the combination. What you really want to achieve as a connected advertiser is a more complete picture of the customer. Use first-party data to continue sending the right message to customers past the awareness stage and influence the mid-funnel stages of consideration and evaluation stages of the funnel. This is done by using the first-party audience list like your email remarketing, for example, in the example you see on the slide. Users who have interacted with the brand's email marketing campaign have shown interest and can then be sent a different messaging, for example, from someone who did not actually take an action after opening the brand's email. As a reminder, first-party data is anything your advertiser owns as their own data about their consumers. In order to leap to this next stage of maturity from an audience standpoint, advertisers must know what first-party data they can leverage. And with that, we'll take the next couple of minutes to help you understand the different types of first-party data that you can leverage on DV360 to bring you to that connected stage. So when it comes down to first-party data, one form of first-party data that you can leverage on DV360 is your YouTube video engagers, for example. That is users who have interacted with any of your videos on your YouTube channel. You can generate YouTube user lists that include viewers who have viewed, commented, shared, or even liked any video from your channel. And for those of you who are familiar with Google Ads, you can also, the same YouTube users that you built on Google Ads can be leveraged on DV360. And if you have audience lists, and speaking of Google Ads, if you have audience lists created on Google Ads or even search audience lists created on Search Ads 360, for example, these can also be ported over to DV360 by linking up the two platforms. And one way we can leverage search audiences on DV360 is in search to display remarketing. What this is that remarketing lists are created on Search Ads 360 based on how customers interact with your search ads. Display creators are then informed by the remarketing list signals, closing the loop on search through display like we see here. In the example that you see on the slide here, a user can go on Google search, for example, to search for car XY offers. And the user then clicks on the paid search ads and is automatically included in the Google Ads or Search Ads 360 remarketing audience list. When the user later visits another site, like an ad micro or a publisher site, for example, he or she will be served with a relevant display creative and is prompted to return to the brand's website to convert. All these that we mentioned here are frictionless and require a tagless setup. Another way that you can target users who have engaged with your brand ads is what we call activity-based audiences on DV360. So campaign activity audiences allows you to create audience lists based on users who have engaged with previous campaigns within your advertiser. This could be users who have clicked on your campaign ad, for example, X number of times, converted, or even existing users within your first party conversion or remarketing list that have been exposed to X number of impressions, for example. In the example we have here, we can easily create campaign activity audience lists of users who have clicked on your ad across publishers but did not convert, and also an audience segment who have been exposed to your ad and converted. In these two different scenarios, as you would imagine, we can serve two different messaging. In the first example of users who have clicked on your ad but did not convert, we could serve them a promotion or a special offer messaging to drive them down the funnel. And in the second example of users who have converted, you would then either exclude these users, or you can even reach out to them with a messaging for them to join your loyalty program, for example. Alright, so now that we've looked at the different types of first-party audiences we can create based on user engagement within your campaign, what about users you've known who have purchased something from your brand or landed on your site, or best still, they are your advertisers' loyal CRM users? One way we can actually capture and create user lists based on users who have landed on your site or app, for example, is what we call tag-based audiences. What this essentially is placing a pixel on your advertiser's site, and each time a user lands on the site, the floodlight tag would fire, collecting these audiences who have landed on the site. These audience segments collected as a result of what we call tag-based audiences are your advertiser's own site's first-party data. We also have custom variables that you can capture by your floodlight tag, and these can be used to narrow your tag-based audience definition. There are a lot of creative ways that you can use custom variables. For example, if your floodlight tag is placed in the add to cart page, for example, SKU IDs, product names, etc. can be passed across as custom variables and be used to define a specific audience set, like, for example, users who have added a specific product to cart. Beyond tag-based audiences, the next to call out is activating CRM audiences on DV360. If your advertiser has a database of user information in their loyalty program, for example, you can leverage customer match feature on DV360 to activate these audiences. This feature allows for uploading of CRM data relating to email addresses, phone numbers, mailing address, user, or even mobile IDs. Okay, next up on the list of first-party audiences is also what we call your DMP audiences. If an advertiser or if your advertiser uses a DMP to collect and maintain audience lists, you can push those segments into DV360 to activate. When it comes down to the ability to port DMP audiences into DV360, we are integrated with over 25 different DMPs. Here on this slide, you can see a few examples to the right. And last but not least, the final audience segment we want to touch base on when looking at audience targeting capabilities on DV360 is a very interesting one, and that is Analytics 360 audiences. Not only would connected audiences try to identify the different first-party audience segments they can build or leverage on, a connected audiences would also challenge themselves a little further to leverage platforms like Analytics 360 audience segment for advanced targeting. We want to give the team here a taste of what are the different analytics audiences that can be built and ported over to DV360. So one of the examples here is you can build an audience who have viewed a specific page. If your clients are using Analytics 360, they will be able to create a list of users who have viewed a specific page on the brand site. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, we spoke about tag-based audiences just now, and this is very similar to the tag-based audiences which we covered just now. So what is the difference in that sense? Beyond just users who have landed on a specific page of the site, this audience segment on Analytics 360 can be further customized beyond your standard tag-based audiences. For example, you can build an audience who have not just landed on the site on Analytics 360, but also an audience segment who have, a single user who have actually spent a specific amount of time on the site. You might decide that it is not enough for a user to just land on the site, for example. You like to bucket users with great intent. And intent in your case and in the brand's case might be defined by spending more than X number of minutes on the page, for example. This can be further defined on GA360 and pushed across to DV360 for activation. Another great example of using Analytics 360 audiences in DV360 is what we call Smart List audiences. Smart List is a remarketing audience that Analytics generates to maximize your conversions. If you are new to remarketing, you will find that using Smart List helps you quickly achieve favorable results. How it works is Analytics applies machine learning to your conversion data to determine which users are most likely to convert in subsequent sessions. The model is typically updated daily to reflect the latest data to which Analytics has access, and users are automatically added to or removed from the audience based on that model. With over 250 dimensions on GA360, you can customize your audience criteria to any specific audience strategy. And one of my favorite examples here is in identifying customers most likely to churn. And this is lower down the funnel, right? We're talking about beyond conversion, we're talking about your loyalty stage. In the example built here, you can see that the example defines an audience most likely to churn by the time spent on site. Combining two audience lists, one of users who spent more than 5 minutes on the site before November 30th, and users who spent less than 5 minutes on the site after December 1st. So this is how an advertiser might actually define an audience likely to churn. But there are multiple ways in which you can actually customize your audience criteria to match a specific strategy. And if your clients are using Analytics 360 on their website, these audiences that you've built can be pushed seamlessly into DV360 for activation. In summary, when we looked at the leap forward from emerging to connected, the key is not just about understanding what kind of first-party audiences a brand has, or how do I bring that data I have together. It is actually looking beyond that, exploring what other first-party audiences you can actually leverage on the platform, and also how we can drive deeper analysis of the first-party audience list for audience segmentation and advanced retargeting. Today, we've seen how complex our digital consumers' behaviors have become. And it has no longer been the case where we run across one site and hope to reach our target audiences. Media buying has shifted to an audience-based approach. And the possibilities of actually reaching out to the right user at the right time have now become possible with the ability to analyze advertisers' first-party data and also target your first-party, third-party, and Google audiences on DV360. We've seen today that first-party data is key to digital marketing maturity. And having the ability to action first-party data in a privacy-safe way, such as your web and app transactions, your demographic and audience interest, environment and signals, or even CRM data in marketing campaigns, is a key trait in every mature brand that the BCG study actually surveyed. And in the study, nearly 9 in 10 APAC brands actually consider first-party data as being very useful and even critical to driving more effective marketing. And all the multi-moment brands that has been surveyed by BCG actually use first-party data in most marketing campaigns consistently or even very frequently compared to only 30% of nascent brands who use first-party data. So the clear difference here is in how we actually use the first-party data and also how we can explore and leverage more first-party data that the brand actually has. The ultimate goal of a multi-moment advertiser is really to distinguish high value from low value customers at different stages of the consumer journey. And when we bring all our data together and use technology to get more out of our data, the future state that we want to get to is using customer lifetime value modeling to guide us in finding the most valuable audiences. This is one step beyond just understanding what kind of first-party data. This is actually taking your first-party data and defining who your high lifetime value users are or your low lifetime value users are. So this is where the future state of audiences would be for your multi-moment advertisers beyond your connected advertisers. Before we end off on audiences, I want to share a great case study from an insurance advertiser in Singapore. Insurance is complicated, right? It needs to be personalized to different users' life stages. Let's have a look at how Income in Singapore, an insurance company, got the most out of their first-party data on DV360 and GA360 to cater to different audiences and drive conversion success.
No one wakes up in the morning thinking, I need to buy a new insurance policy today. Insurance is complicated as it needs to be personalized to cater to customers' different life stages. That's why traditionally it is sold face-to-face. We wanted to bring the same personalized approach of an agent online and make it faster and easier for people to find what they're looking for, at the same time strengthening our online sales. Personalizing every customer's online journey was a huge task, and we needed to rethink our entire digital strategy to do it. That's why we reached out to our Google marketing platform partner, Happy Marketer.
People come to our website to read policy information, read about articles, or even compare their prices. There's different touch points that provide great signals on how far they are along into the conversion journey. Happy Marketer help us to get the most out of our first-party data collected from our website via Google Analytics 360 by creating many different audience groups. This has made it possible for us to continue the conversation with our customers. We leverage our display and video 360 platform to retarget our customer and bring them back to our website. On top of that, we personalize our website using our optimized 360 for each of our audience groups. This return visitors will greater way customize messaging and promotions to make a decision in the policies that they were interested in. In the end, we had over 200 automated audience groups spanning across the full funnel. From awareness and acquisition all the way to retention, we drove our CPA down by 50% and increased our online sales by 12% year-on-year, month after month.
We are making it easier and faster for them to decide what policies they need. It used to take an average of 8 to 16 days to complete the full purchase funnel of travel insurance, but now it's only 24 hours. Connecting with our customers in a personalized way has not just helped us create a smoother purchase journey. It has kick-started our transformation to become a digital insurer. Now, that's amazing.
With that, I hope the examples shown today have inspired you to think a little more about how we value add for our clients from an audience buying standpoint. We'll now go for a short break, and after the break, we'll come back to understand more about how we can move from a nascent or emerging phase to a connected phase from an assets and attribution standpoint. After the break, we'll dive into assets, more specifically with examples around data-driven creatives, and last but not least, having all these are wonderful, but we also want to talk about attribution and the different attribution models available to understand the impact of each of your media activity. With that, I hope you have a good short break to recharge, and I'll see you back in a bit. Hello everyone, hope you've had a good short break. Thanks again for taking time out today to join the Programmatic Blue Belt session. It is super encouraging to see the industry get together to drive programmatic maturity in Vietnam. Alright, without further ado, as promised, we'll go into the next 2 A's around assets and attribution, and what driving digital maturity in these 2 A's mean. Now we're going to move on to the next A, which is ads and assets, relating to creatives. You've heard before that 70% of campaigns performance is down to creative. And what we actually saw in the green belt was that, beyond your standard display, video, and YouTube formats, there are different bespoke creative formats that you might not already know available on DV360. I want you to hold on to these details because this is crucial in helping us drive maturity from a creative standpoint. Now, according to the BCG framework, your nascent advertisers execute simple campaigns with standard static creatives that are non-campaign specific and they are mass targeted. So one simple creative is used for your different channels and your different formats. On the other hand, emerging advertisers activate different channel and objective tailored messaging through manual activation. Nascent advertisers use limited creatives, perhaps repurposed from your traditional print or TV assets, whereas emerging advertisers would deploy multiple creative formats, including digital specific display creatives. We also saw that nascent advertisers use the same message across all channels, whilst your emerging advertisers might use some sort of creative decisioning to vary creative messaging by brand or performance, or even by campaign objective. An emerging advertiser sometimes tailor creative by segment and uses different messagings as well as creatives for different segments of audiences. And lastly, what the framework and the research actually saw was that emerging advertisers will leverage an ad server for creative hosting and ad serving, while a nascent advertiser would not actually use an ad server. Increasingly, what we've seen in Vietnam is that advertisers are recognizing that the true potential in programmatic advertising not just lies in targeting the right audiences at the right time, but also delivering the right message to these different users. And when you match that, the right message essentially refers to the creative, while targeting the right person at the right time essentially refers to your media strategy. In order to deliver the right message to the right users at the right time, what we've seen is that some brands have moved to connect the dots between creative and media. They've attempted different creative assets for TV and online video, and some brands are even stepping up their game in tailoring their messaging to different audience groups. But this has been challenging because traditionally, creative and media has been working separately. They're almost mutually exclusive. They work in a mutually exclusive manner, right? So hence a lot of brands have been trying to tailor messaging to different audience groups, but they've only been able to do it in a limited manual way, say up to 3 to 5 different creative messaging per campaign, for example. The key difference between an emerging and connected advertiser is that a connected advertiser is able to break out of that manual creative workflow. And when being compared to an emerging advertiser, a connected advertiser leverages on technology to automatically optimize dynamic creatives and tailor messages by segments. This could be tailoring messagings to different audience segments, for example, or even tailoring messaging based on different environments. What a connected advertiser would essentially do is use technology to build creatives efficiently with the intention to scale. A connected advertiser recognizes that there is a no one-size-fits-all messaging, and their customers have different interests and intent and are on different media channels and use different environment and device types. And thus, what a connected advertiser would aim to go towards is actually show different creative messaging between football enthusiasts and food lovers, for example, and even between users browsing financial content and users browsing property searches, for example. Or you might even want to go to the extent of showing different creative messaging between users who are in Ho Chi Minh versus users who are in Hanoi. How is this done, you might ask? How is the connected advertiser able to automatically optimize dynamic creatives, not in a manual workflow way, but in an automatic fashion? So how connected advertisers do this is they break down the silos between creative and media execution through technology. What is this technology? What is this miraculous technology that enables us to automate creative variations as well as creative messaging to different audience segments? What this technology is a creative management platform. So a creative management platform plays a big part in reinforcing the bridge between media and creative. Creative management platforms such as Google Studio, for example, as part of the Google Marketing Platform stack, equips advertisers with the capabilities to manage their creatives in a one common asset library. Develop your dynamic creatives with complete control and flexibility, and perform QA and debugging post-creative build. All these is done in a single platform. A creative management platform like Studio is more than just a builder or scaler or even a publishing tool. It is key to fostering collaboration and an agile campaign process between creative as well as media. It pieces together creatives on the fly based on specific signals. These signals could be weather signals. It could also be, audience signals such as your affinity or in-market audiences, or even signals lower down the funnel such as what users have added to your cart, for example. A reliable and advanced creative management platform can help you go a long way in improving maturity in your creative strategy and bringing both your media strategy and your creative strategy together. People usually think that when it comes down to dynamic creatives or even DV360, they usually think of it from an upper funnel perspective. But what I really want to show you today is some examples of dynamic creative, not just to cater for your upper or mid funnel strategies, but also lower funnel strategies. There are some great examples in Southeast Asia that I believe we can easily replicate in Vietnam. Now, from an upper funnel perspective, dynamic creatives can really be delivered with real-time triggers. A great example here is from Adidas, where Adidas actually looked to capture user attention during the massive and overcrowded World Cup season. In order to capture attention, especially in such an overcrowded advertising season, they thought of what better way to actually do this by having their creators reflect the real-time World Cup scores and users' favorite soccer players. Vietnam was actually one of the markets targeted in this campaign. So let's have a look at how they actually did it in this video case study.
Football is the heritage of Adidas. So naturally, during FIFA World Cup, we had to be right in the center of the action. That's when the whole world is watching. Every marketer, football related or not, is fighting for audience attention, especially online. So in order to overcome the increased state of banner blindness, we wanted to create an experience that's not just memorable, but more importantly, useful.
So this allowed us to leverage our joint partnership plan with Google, and we designed a custom solution to serve ads with real-time triggers. The dynamic elements were personalized to show their favorite player and the score in real time. When the match starts, a moment is created using the real-time triggers feature on the Display and Video 360 platform, after which the bidding for premium inventory commences. Studio then starts to piece together an ad. The completed ad is then served through Campaign Manager. From only 4 creative templates, we were able to generate over 300 customized banner ads. Doing this entirely on the Google Marketing Platform allowed us to scale up to 6 markets. We created an experience by being more relevant in the moments that matter.
The viewability of the creative went up to almost 1.7 times the industry benchmark, and the hover rate improved 2.5 times. We even saw a huge increase in our click-through rates, which more than tripled. Seeing the way people reacted to The experience we created has changed the way we look at the integration of technology with our ads. We can't wait to see what's next.
Then, of course, from a mid-funnel perspective, advertisers first define who their target users are from an affinity and in-market standpoint. So this could be essentially using your first-party audiences, for example, to understand who your target audiences are, and then engage with your target audiences based on their passion points. There is a good example here from HP, an example that is actually a campaign that is actually very close to my heart. Essentially, what HP did was they brought their first-party data together and identified, using that first-party data, they analyzed that data and identified a total of 57 different user passion points across 3 different markets, and then used your creative management platform, such as Studio, to deliver dynamic creatives on DV360. All in all, what they actually delivered was 595 different creative variations, all put together in real time and delivered to users in an automatic fashion. Let's have a look at how they actually did it in this video case study.
At HP, we believe in the power of reinvention. It's not just in our ethos itself, it's the DNA of the company. Reinventing memories is basically our take on original supplies, because really, when you print something, you're not just printing ink on paper, you're basically printing memories that matter, memories that are valuable, or even impressions that last.
How we wanted to connect to the emotional part of the messaging is to look at what is the passion points, the interest areas for the end user. Our Google Audience Insight tool actually helped to look at the search behavior for our ink and toner audiences and look at 30 days to 60 days of data, and they were able to segment approximately up to 57 audience segments, like dog lovers or aspiring chefs.
We wanted to be as targeted as possible, and therefore what that means is creating all the necessary creatives to make sure that we have the right messaging for this particular audience, that particular audience. With DoubleClick, we had 196 creatives from the 3 markets. Then as we expand the work, right, it became 595 different creatives across different markets, different interests, different language.
We have around 2.5 times more click-through rate, which is resulting at approximately 50 to 55% higher clicks than our standard banners.
From a number of impressions versus total cost, right, we were able to save about 45%, which is a significant savings. But the important thing is that we were able to do this, and that is different, right? The sheer innovation and the ability to then execute is what we got out of the partnership.
So we've looked at the example of an upper funnel dynamic creative strategy with Adidas as an example. And then from a mid-funnel perspective, understanding who your target audiences are and driving them down the funnel. From a consideration and mid-funnel perspective, we had the example of HP. Last but not least, what we really want to show you is that dynamic creatives can also be used to drive conversions lower down the funnel, to drive your lower funnel strategy in this case. There are 2 examples of lower funnel dynamic remarketing, or what we would call echo remarketing. Essentially, what echo remarketing is like the name suggests, it echoes the user's action on the advertiser's webpage and reflects that on the creative. So you see here 2 examples on the screen. One is for a travel client, Singapore Airlines, and the other is for an e-commerce client. In the travel advertiser example, say a user searches for a specific flight destination from Singapore to Sydney, and the flight fare will be presented to them on the site, right? So on the site, the user would see, okay, flight from Singapore to Sydney is $1,467. Now, let's say the user did not convert. They saw the price and then they dropped off the website. What can happen in this case is that with echo remarketing and dynamic creatives on DV360, there are custom variables on the site that can capture these variables, such as your flight destination, airfare ticket price, flight dates can all be captured at the time the user was at the site and retargeted to the user on a customized banner the next time the user comes back online. All these can be put together in real time in mere milliseconds because of the technology we have available, a creative management platform that we call Studio. Another example of echo remarketing is with an e-commerce client. Say, for example, a user actually went onto an e-commerce website and saw a product, but later did not convert and dropped off. Details on the product can be put together on the banner in real time and retargeted to the user on a customized banner the next time the user comes back online to remind him like, hey, you saw this product, why not come back to convert? So all this can be done in an automated fashion and an automated manner on DV360. How it essentially works is to define the different creative messaging on a sheet, determine your signal trigger. So in this case, the signal trigger could be the user who have landed on the site, or in the case of HP, the signal trigger could be an affinity or in-market audience. And what will happen is that the creative variations will be put together in real time based on the user reached. So dynamic creatives on DV360 can really be used from a full funnel perspective. We saw the example of an upper funnel case study with Adidas, a mid-funnel strategy that was run by HP. And then we also saw the lower funnel case study that we had with Singapore Airlines. The creative strategy can really be tailored to fit the objectives of the client here. So back to the question we initially asked. How do we drive maturity from a creative standpoint? The answer with these examples have been very simple. What is a connected advertiser must essentially do is first break down the siloed thinking between your creative and media execution. We know that fundamentally, engagement follows when creative, media, and technology works perfectly together. Alright, so now we're down to the last A we'll be deep diving into this programmatic blue belt session. As with the other two A's on audience and assets, let's have a look at how we can move our advertisers from a nascent advertiser to a connected advertiser from an attribution and measurement standpoint. So before we dive into all of the cool and advanced processes and technology that we as practitioners can use for attribution, let's do a quick recap of what we learned during our green belt session. This will help us set the stage for exploring how attribution can work in the more advanced stages of the maturity framework. So in the green belt, we looked at three main reporting types available on DV360. You have your planning reports, which are reports that can be used for campaign planning purposes prior to a campaign launch to understand inventory availabilities and what kind of audiences we should be looking at. Then we have audience performance reports that takes a deep dive into how well various audience lists are performing and or are scaling. And last but not least, we have the campaign performance report, which we went through during the Greenbelt session that gives you performance data for live campaigns. This can be your general media metrics, category performance, for example, or keyword performance, and so on. So these reports offer measurement not only from a post-campaign measure of success perspective, but it can also be used for optimization as well as planning purposes. So back to our BCG framework, a nascent advertiser uses these reports on a day-to-day basis from an operational standpoint. But a nascent advertiser would use this in a siloed manner to look at performance on a per-campaign level. Whilst an emerging advertiser takes into account some level of consolidation and deduplication in reporting across publisher and consumer touchpoints. Another main difference between a nascent and emerging advertiser is in the use of attribution modeling. A nascent advertiser uses the default last click attribution on separate platforms, whilst an emerging advertiser uses last click attribution on partially deduplicated conversions, with some testing on rules-based attribution models. So there's a lot of talk around attribution over here. But the main question that some of you might be asking is, so what does attribution even mean? Attribution essentially looks to understand the entire consumer journey and accurately measure the impact of each touch point to your overall digital strategy. What is the impact driven by your video campaign as compared to your display campaign? So that is one question that attribution would aim to answer. Another question that attribution would aim to answer is, for example, what is the impact driven by your search campaign in your overall digital marketing strategy mix? So a nascent and emerging advertiser will look at your different digital channel mix in silos, but a connected, more mature advertiser would start asking these questions. To really move from an emerging advertiser to a connected advertiser, there are three main considerations that brands need to do. First of all, before we are even able to analyze the impact of each digital touchpoint on your overall marketing strategy, we must first ensure that we have all tracking centralized in a single platform to enable a single user view across the different digital touchpoints. I think we can all agree here that as consumers ourselves, consumer journeys have really become more complex with more channels and devices in place in our daily lives. The presence of more channels has made it extremely difficult for marketers to identify the path that a consumer takes prior to purchase. And on top of that, what was actually found was that a typical marketer today uses 13 channels to drive his or her marketing objectives. So today's customer journey is highly fragmented across different channels as well as different devices. A connected advertiser definitely knows this and knows that in order to actually understand how the different touch points work together to drive the overall marketing objective and how it impacts the overall objective, they must first build a single source of truth for all digital media touch points in one platform. The connected advertiser does this by consolidating tracking of all digital touch points in one platform on an ad server like Campaign Manager. So a key question that you might want to ask here is your advertisers' media data being measured on different platforms? If they are, what is likely to happen is that it would be hard for you to have a single view of the same user. Without a single consolidated platform, it would be difficult to map out your user journey and the roles of which each channel plays in it. Looking at the example here, we can see that the user is a female, as indicated in the icon. There are about 6 to 7 touch points across multiple channels prior to the conversion, which in this case is the sale of the product. If we were unable to consolidate all of these different touch points in one platform, what would happen is that we would end up not being able to attribute the conversion to the right channel. Traditionally, if you can see here, what happens is that each of these channels has a view of only its own media. It sees the conversion driven from its point of view. So for example, Google Ads will have its own set of trackers on the brand website, and your publisher deals at Micro and Athema, for example, would each also have its own trackers on the brand website. And each publisher would say that they've driven X number of conversions. But you definitely know that there would be an instance where a single user went from a publisher to GDN and later converted. So whilst each of these channels would consider this as a conversion on their end, and you would think that you have 2 conversions altogether driven by these 2 different channels, the truth is that all this actually belongs to a single user and only one total conversion instead of 2 has been driven. What this means is that if we only have a siloed view across the different channels, what could potentially happen is that we would be investing suboptimally across the channels and hence missing out on an opportunity to drive higher performance. So because platforms like Campaign Manager has a single view across these different channels and serves as the single source of truth, it can give you a deduplicated view of how many conversions have indeed been driven by your campaign across many of these various channels. After we've had the different digital touchpoints consolidated into a single view, we can then go on to answer the question, how do you then value each and every touchpoint along the consumer journey? How do we determine the impact of each digital touchpoint to our overall marketing objective? This can really be done by applying the respective attribution models to analyze the impact of each digital touchpoint. So attribution modeling helps us to find the most optimal way in understanding which channel works best. There are mainly 6 main attribution models, as we can see here on the slide. First is last click. So the last click model assigns full credit to the last touch point in a consumer journey. This is the default model at which conversions are being attributed currently. Then we have the first click model, which assigns full credit to the first touch point in a consumer journey. Time decay model, the touch points closest in time to the sale or the conversion will get more credit. And then we have linear, where equal credit is given to all touch points. Position-based model actually assigns 40% to the first channel and last touch point, and then other touch points in between will share 20% credit equally among them. And last but not least, you have your data-driven attribution, or what we call DDA model. This is the more advanced version of attribution modeling, and we expect connected advertisers to start adopting DDA models for attribution. So what is data-driven attribution modeling, you might ask? Data-driven attribution modeling essentially looks at all the available user journey paths, not just the different media channel different users are exposed to, but also the different sequence at which users are seeing these ads from your display, video, and search media channels. It also includes your user paths and data from both converting and non-converting users into the analysis. And what it aims is to understand how each specific marketing touch point impacts your user's probability to convert. What comes out of that is a resulting percentage credit given to each touch point, given the touch point the user was exposed to and the channel sequence at which he or she was exposed to. However, one thing to note here is that the prerequisite to for DDA to actually work is to have sufficient data on consumer touch points, and that the different consumer touch points should be consolidated into a single platform. So now, depending on the attribution model chosen, you are now able to apply the right credit to each touch point in the consumer's journey. Following this analysis, you can then figure out how to optimize the media mix appropriately to maximize your performance goal. The connected advertiser, however, will not stop there. After consolidating, your data, building an attribution model using that data, it is important that the connected advertiser ensures that this data is converted into insights. Reports that contain various insights from the different channels are automated and shared with the relevant stakeholders in the organization in order to have a healthy discussion on how to optimize the media mix appropriately to maximize the brand's performance goals. Now, in summary, how do we take the leap from a nascent or emerging to a connected advertiser when it comes down to attribution? The key here really lies in the 3 main considerations of attribution. and that is the consolidation of data, attribution modeling, and visualization of the data and getting insights from the analysis that we've done with attribution modeling. That is track, analyze, and then action. So whilst an emerging advertiser will have a fragmented view of the user and is still stuck in the last click world, but starting to think a little about rule-based attribution models, a connected user will strive towards consolidating all digital touchpoints of a consumer journey in a single platform. And in the connected world, you will observe advertisers moving beyond last click and rule-based attribution modeling and into the data-driven attribution world. You will also observe that there will be comparisons between rules-based and data-driven attribution modeling to help these advertisers inform what is the right media strategy. So this is a really exciting realm. And what does the future hold for attribution, you might ask? Slowly but surely, it will not only be about digital anymore, but what we will see is that offline data will also be considered when looking at attribution modeling. We will also see that beyond the connected advertiser, a multi-moment advertiser would go further and connect data-driven models into bidding. This optimization will ensure that the right bid is being placed for the right impression based on channel in order to optimize and improve a brand's performance in their day-to-day campaigns. So we looked at the key characteristics of a nascent, emerging, and connected advertiser across 3 of the 5 A's today. That is your audience, assets, and attribution. Multi-moment is really the final stage of tech maturity and by far the hardest to achieve beyond a connected advertiser, right? You have your nascent, emerging, connected, and then multi-moment. And what we saw was that technology and automation is a key enabler, but is not achievable really without data and the right people. It is essential at this stage to link your technology objectives to business outcome KPIs and to use what we've learned today around audience, assets, and attribution to optimize value for your advertisers. Now with that, we've come to the end of Digital Guru Programmatic Blue Belt. Thank you so much for tuning in live to today's session. And as mentioned, please feel free to join the Q&A session in the Google Meets link. If you have any questions that have yet to be answered in the live stream chat, please feel free to join the Google Meet session. If you have any further questions on programmatic after this session, please feel free to reach out to your Google account manager. With that said, thank you for your attention today. Stay safe, healthy, and have a great week ahead.